I've given instructions to do a Translator cloudbusting deployment directly at the sun. That will create solar flares, more magnetic M-time flares, not your major flares which are compacted and deployed as a radiation type flare. Yes, it contains radiation. The M flares are slightly different. I call them javelin plasma M flares because what they do, they charge the Earth's atmosphere, and it can potentially affect the electric currents of the equipment, but less so to the full radiation flares that we are commonly used to, that can create massive problems. Now, just look at this. Normally the vortex is over the North Pole. However, the North Pole vortex is currently sitting right over the USA. Here, let's give you the details on it. Here we are. Right, some are suggesting we're entering a mini ice age, and it could potentially last for 17 years. I'm going to stop it here. This is going to be marked. I've got some information from BP Earthwatch actually, and I will post this video which includes this. I'm sure he won't mind because he wants this out there, but we can use this for and it's only on a website of one of the pages for the weather satellites. There is the main energy of the Arctic vortex. It is sitting right there instead of over the North Pole, which is where it should be. It's totally distorted, and this is to do with the sun having a major solar minimum. Not a solar minimum, a major solar minimum, which means it's here to stay for a long time. Now, deploying translators will create a plasma ejection directly to the Earth. We've done it before. The video's up there. I'm not going to go there right now. But by charging the atmosphere, this helps to correct the Earth's magnetic field and charge for the weather to be reset to a healthy state. I believe that we can do that, and here is this continued to show you. Look at that. Them are the temperatures. You can see that that is staying in that position. In fact, he marks it there in a moment to show you exactly where it is and what he's talking about. So that's the reason why I'm doing a team deployment to create a change to the solar minimum. Now, I know what a lot of you are thinking, and some of you have seen spectacular results with translators. We can do this, and it does work. So there's the area that's being pointed to, and it covers almost the whole of the United States. And what's interesting is if you look at California, and Sean will verify this, we've had over 60 degrees centigrade, whilst these temperatures are going to minus 10, 15, and even colder than that is forecast. Okay, we'll hold that there for a second. And this area is where the vortex normally is. The rotation above the North Pole, yes, it wobbles and it changes slightly, but look at that. It's pulled fair few thousand kilometres off where it would naturally be. Now what you see here is the number of spotless days. That's 0 spots showing on the sun as a small solar minimum. And it starts at 2009 working up. You get to 2017, well, from 12, 11, 2 days, 0 days, 1 day in 2014, none in 2015, 32 in 2016, 2017, 101 days where no spots appeared. So it's approaching a solar minimum. Now, look at this. I'm going to let BP Earthwatch now tell you what the problem is with a solar minimum.
Now, we've had 101 days without sunspots. This is predicted. It's not just me. Other scientists are watching this. It's dropping. You get up to our current time now, and we see a very low output right there. After this modern maximum, we got a slight slowing in the rotation of our planet. That has effects also. And guys, if you look back through these dips on this chart, again, it would take too long to go through it again. We had the greatest earthquakes and the greatest volcanic activity during the minimums. What happens?
Did you hear that? The greatest earthquakes and volcanoes happen during solar minimums. Those earthquakes, by the way, are far deeper. The reason for that is solar flares make the Earth's natural magnetic field expand. It's instantaneous. As the sun's solar flare erupts, the Earth's magnetic field, it's something to do with the core, expands the protection of solar flares hitting the Earth. Some can get through, depending on the energy. But the point I'm making is the Earth reacts with the sun and increases its magnetic field. Solar flares can cause earthquakes because it's a change in the Earth's field. So changes in the Earth's magnetic field can cause earthquakes and volcanoes. Imagine the change taking place during a 17-year solar minimum, creating earthquakes and volcanoes. That's what we're facing. And catastrophic changes in the weather. That's my point. Now, if we can increase a solar flare, and a safe type of solar flare, in effect there are no safe solar flares, but if you've got an option, you'd go for an M flare. And it's a plasma solar javelin flare, that's what I call it. And we've done it once before, as we've shown in the video. So a team deployment can help to correct what we're doing now. So yes, you probably see questions from people saying, what are we doing creating solar flares? And there is my answer. By the way, another thing to do with the increase in volcanoes, we know like Yellowstone's becoming active. Volcanoes around the planet are all starting to become active. And imagine, the geoengineers talk about volcanoes, about cooling the planet. So some of the things they say are actually true. Volcanoes do help to cool the planet. But imagine a solar minimum, less solar activity, a drop in the Earth's magnetic field, temperatures plummeting, and then volcanoes kick in and cool the temperature even more. You could be looking, that's why they're saying there's potentially an ice age on the way. So I'm prepared to do something about that, not just that, but to change the weather, get rains reset back to normal, and have natural weather. It's a win-win-win-win-win situation. It's a healing deployment for the planet. Now this is Volcano Tambora in Indonesia, and 200 years ago it blew its top. And for years after this the temperature plummeted around the world, as did sunlight, and some of the effects were catastrophic. So we're looking at an increase in volcanoes which is having this effect. It is a fact. Volcanoes cool the temperature. It explains it here.
Damage from the volcano and an associated tsunami was immense. Perhaps 100,000 people died immediately or starved in the aftermath. The effects on the wider world, though, were even greater. Like all large eruptions, Tambora's was to change the climate around much of the planet for years. But just how do volcanoes change the climate? Eruptions spew out not just lava and ash, but also gases. Indeed, it is these gases trapped under great pressure in molten rock that give an eruption its explosive power. For the climate, the key gas is sulfur dioxide. Once it gets into the stratosphere, sulfur dioxide from a volcano mingles with water, forming tiny sulfate particles. These particles reflect some sunlight back into space, and the surface below cools. They also absorb some sunlight, warming up the stratosphere. These temperature changes have big knock-on effects. A cooler surface means less evaporation, and thus...
And they have it. These are well established, accepted facts. But interestingly, it affects the jet stream as well, and in a negative way. And it also plummets temperatures, and it reduces rain. So we've seen a drop in rain in certain parts of the planet, like over California, and they're compounding it with also deployments of NEXRADs and EMF transmitters.
less rainfall. A warmer stratosphere means stronger jet streams. In the year after Tambor's eruption, scientists estimate the stratosphere's sulfate veil caused a 3% drop in rainfall and cooled the planet by 1 degree Celsius.
There you go, there's the details on that. I don't want to harbour on this too much.
That is a temperature drop in 1 year, twice as large as the long-term warming the Earth has seen over the past half-century. The climate upheaval caused a hiatus of the Indian monsoon, drought in southern Africa, and widespread crop failures in Europe, where it was known as the year without a summer. No one can say when an eruption large enough to have such drastic effects will happen next. That one will happen, though, is a certainty.
So, what we're looking at is a multiple benefit by creating solar flares in a way that I know we can do it. If anybody has any reservations about this, please say so, and we can remove you from the deployments. Not everybody is going to be deploying. Certain types of apparatus are very useful to use for this operation. Now, the video on the deployment that we did successfully, and the information is overwhelming. There were massive positive effects after that, which helped further deployments. That's all there on video evidence, and this is the effect that it has. The Earth's down here. I've done a video on it, and later this created solar flares here. It's a plasma. It's like a line of magnetic plasma that comes to the Earth and helps the atmosphere to heal. And that's it. That was over nearly a 4-day period, 4 to 5 days. But the effect, this was the effect on the front, that was the effect on the back. Major energy release. And that's what the Earth's built on. The Earth's built to accept solar energy from the sun. It's the source of our life on the planet.